You're watching Philosophical Roast, today's brew. Light Roast. The Kalam Cosmological Argument. The Rationality Channel debunked.
Does God exist? Or is the material universe all that is, or ever was, or ever will be?
I wouldn't say that there are only two options. It's not there is a God or the universe is eternal. That would be a false dichotomy fallacy, as there could easily be more options than that, such as our universe came into being through natural processes we don't yet understand.
Wait, so your best attempt at a third option is just to say, well, it's possible that there is some other option that I can't name and that I have no reason or evidence to believe exists. Well, if we're just taking mere possibilities as the preferred alternative, then why can't the theist just appeal to the possibility of God's existence as the preferred alternative?
One approach to answering this question is the cosmological argument. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, therefore, the universe has a cause. Is the first premise true? Let's consider. Believing that something can pop into existence without a cause is more of a stretch than believing in magic. At least with magic, you've got a hat and a magician.
Ugh. Notice something about that example. A rabbit exists within the universe, whereas the universe doesn't exist within itself. This is a false equivalence fallacy. Cause and effect is a law of the universe. That doesn't mean it applies to the universe as a whole. Look at this image. The universe is A. We can conclude cause and effect exist inside of A. So if the question is regarding something happening inside of A, then assuming cause and effect is fair. Now look at B. We don't know if cause and effect apply there, or even if it exists. Laws internal to the universe don't necessarily apply to the universe as a whole. You would have to prove that. We just don't know, as we can't observe it.
This is known as the taxicab fallacy. It's disingenuous to use the principle of causality everywhere else you need an explanation, but then suddenly toss it aside like it's a useless principle just because it points to a conclusion you happen not to like.
Something can come into being from nothing. Then why don't we see this happening all the time?
Because we live inside the universe, not outside of it looking in.
If it can't be known what laws exist outside the universe, how do you know the law of cause and effect is somehow missing?
No, everyday experience and scientific evidence confirm our first premise.
They only confirm the first premise in regards to things taking place inside the universe.
Taxicab fallacy.
We have no experience or scientific evidence regarding the outside of the universe and what laws apply to the universe as a whole, because we just can't observe it with current technology and may never be able to observe it.
This supporting argument is an inductive argument from experience, not a deductive argument from the particular to the whole, as that would be guilty of committing the fallacy of composition. As an inductive argument, it's probabilistic in nature, arguing for what is likely to be the case based on what we do know, not for what is in fact the case based on what we don't know.
If something begins to exist, it must have a cause.
Inside of the universe perhaps, but that doesn't mean you can apply it to the universe as a whole. Come on, surely you can understand that.
Causality likely does apply to the universe as a whole, because it's not a physical principle but a metaphysical principle. Surely you can understand that.
But what about our second premise? Did the universe begin, or has it always existed? Atheists have typically said that the universe has been here forever.
What do you mean by typically? Because for the past decade at least, the majority of atheists would probably accept the universe began to exist in its current form via the Big Bang. One of the common points usually made is that time did not exist prior to the universe existing in its current form, as time is a property of our current universe, so the concept of time before the universe literally makes no sense, as time as we know it only began following the Big Bang.
The preceding was a philosophical endorsement of the second premise of the Kalam Cosmological Argument.
Universe is just there, and that's all.
That seems like a quote line. That quote was far too vague to assert Bertrand Russell was claiming the universe was eternal. He very well may have thought that, I don't know, but either way that quote doesn't prove anything. It just shows he thinks that the universe is all that exists. It doesn't mean that it was eternal.
The preceding was an objection to the fact that a quote by Bertrand Russell implied the universe being eternal, lending additional support to the second premise.
Let's consider the second law of thermodynamics. It tells us the universe is slowly running out of usable energy. And that's the point.
The second law of thermodynamics is probably one of the most commonly misrepresented laws by theists.
Random ad hominem.
If the universe had been here forever, it would have run out of usable energy by now. The second law points us to a universe that has a definite beginning.
That actually wasn't that bad. Have a cookie.
Thanks. Here, have a condescending muffin.
This is further confirmed by a series of remarkable scientific discoveries. In 1915, Albert Einstein presented his general theory of relativity. This allowed us, for the first time, to talk meaningfully about the past history of the universe. Next, Alexander Friedmann and Georges Lemaitre, each working with Einstein's equations, predicted that the universe is expanding. Then in 1929, Edwin Hubble measured the red shift in light from distant galaxies. This empirical evidence confirmed not only that the universe is expanding, but that it sprang into being from a single point in the finite past. It was a monumental discovery, almost beyond comprehension.
That wasn't too bad. You can have a second cookie.
How generous. Care for another muffin.
But it is worth noting, we can assert the universe in its current form began to exist, but we don't know anything about the singularity it came from. For example, anything outside of the current universe would no longer be guaranteed to have time applying to it, so the singularity may not be eternal or finite, given it wouldn't have to be pinned to the concept of time.
The singularity isn't pinned to time, it's a mathematical idealization, not an actual physical state.
However, not everyone is fond of a finite universe, so it wasn't long before alternative models popped into existence. But one by one, these models failed to stand the test of time.
It's interesting that you point out how these theories have not held up against scientific scrutiny, when that same standard of scrutiny also rejects the Kalam Cosmological Argument.
The scientific method cannot reject the Kalam Cosmological Argument because it's a philosophical argument and not some theistic cosmogony.
Recently, 3 leading cosmologists, Arvin Bord, Alan Guth, and Alexander Vilenkin, proved that any universe which has on average been expanding throughout its history cannot be eternal in the past, but must have an absolute beginning. This even applies to the multiverse, if there is such a thing. This means that scientists can no longer hide behind a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning.
Well, that really depends on what you define as the beginning. We can safely say from your argument that the universe as we know it, that is one with the current laws of physics expanding from a central point, must have had a beginning. This, however, doesn't allow us to say anything about the universe before it began to expand.
Nobody argued that we can know anything about what's outside the universe just from the fact that it had a beginning. But if the universe is caused, then we certainly can know something about what caused the universe.
Hence the beginning of time, and the universe as we know it are the limits of our current understanding. We can't make assertions about anything outside of this.
If we can't make assertions about anything outside of the universe, then why did you say that causality doesn't apply outside the universe?
Any adequate model must have a beginning, just like the standard model. It's quite plausible then that both premises of the argument are true.
Premise 1 is deeply flawed and terrible, hence this argument falls apart immediately, and I'll be taking back those cookies we gave you earlier. Whereas premise 2 kind of works so long as it only applies to the universe in its current form, though it isn't beyond the realm of possibility that the universe previously had multiple forms.
Actually, it is beyond the realm of possibility that the universe could have multiple different forms previously. Because there is no previous time before the universe began to exist. At least that's what you said earlier.
This means that the conclusion is also true. The universe has a cause.
No, because cause and effect is a property internal to the universe, so you can't know it applies to the universe as a whole.
The application of causation to the universe isn't claimed to be knowledge, but merely a more plausible option as opposed to the contradictory.
But even if it is true, that doesn't prove a supernatural agent is responsible. A cause could literally mean anything.
No, the cause of the universe can't be anything. For example, the cause of the universe cannot itself be anything inside the universe.
Especially when we can't know anything about the properties of every label B.
Actually, we are able to know some of the properties. This simply ignores the conceptual analysis of the nature of the cause.
And since the universe can't cause itself, its cause must be beyond the space-time universe.
So now we're discussing the section labeled B. I would assert we can't know anything about it with current technology, so the default position has to be, I don't know. I'm going to guess you disagree.
Just because we can't know anything about something with current technology doesn't mean we should say we can't know anything about it.
It must be spaceless, timeless, immaterial, uncaused, and unimaginably powerful.
Prove it. The properties of B could have time. B could exist within C, and it could just go on infinitely, because that could be acceptable within that plane of existence. I'm not saying it does, but I am saying you can't assert anything about it without first making observations.
So we can't say anything about something we can't observe? Then why do you make so many assertions about the nature of causality?
Much like God. The cosmological argument shows that, in fact, it is quite reasonable to believe that God does exist.
It fits a definition you made. So what? Consider this. You look at a boulder on top of a mountain and ask me where it came from. I say, bloop did it. You ask me to prove it, and I say, bloop is defined as an immaterial force that moves boulders up mountains. The boulder is up there, hence it fits the definition of bloop, and now it is reasonable to believe bloop exists. Would you accept it? No, because it isn't sufficient evidence to prove something exists.
No, I wouldn't accept it because it's a bad argument.
Anyone can just make up definitions for things to fit reality. That doesn't mean it is reasonable to believe they exist because of that.
So you think there exists a spaceless, immaterial, timeless, and personal cause of the universe, but you just think that cause shouldn't be defined as God. If you concede that such a being does exist, then you believe that a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, personal being exists, and that some people have a weird habit of calling that being God. I guess you're right, theists are the weird ones.